He's Jonathan Ford. Follow him on X at FordJonathan5. I'm Brian London. Follow me on X at Miami Radio Beast. And this week, Jonathan, we have to talk about Joe Biden's trip to France to mark the 80th anniversary of D-Day.
Monday, June 5th, 1944. The evil Hitler's Third Reich was devastating the world. Nazi Germany had subjugated the once free nations of Europe through brute force, lies, and twisted ideology of racial superiority. Millions of Jews murdered in the Holocaust. Millions of others killed by bombs, bullets, bloody warfare. Hitler and those with him thought democracies were weak, that the future belonged to dictators. Here, on the coast of Normandy, the battle between freedom and tyranny would be joined. Here, on that June morning, the testing was at hand.
Showing the power of the United States president making a speech there and memorializing the occasion. But a very good trip for Joe Biden, very important trip. And obviously we can't lose sight of why he was there and those that lost their lives there on D-Day.
Yeah, it was an extremely I was just watching some videos, and the reason why we wanted to bring this up, I think it's important to understand the emotions that are behind that. Just watching video of some of the veterans from D-Day was very moving. But yes, President Biden touched on the United States not allowing ourselves to turn a blind eye to tyranny or dictatorship, and that we will continue to be leaders of the free world. And that's why the aid to Ukraine and the support for Ukraine is important today, just like our eventual support against Hitler and against tyranny that was unexcusable. And he also highlighted on how allies then were just as important as they are today. As we know, thousands of lives were lost. Roughly around 2,501 U.S. soldiers died on that day, and 70,000 total troops, including allies with injuries, also included in those statistics. But it was a great day for President Biden, just to put importance of where we stand in where we stand as a country, and what other countries look for us as far as leadership.
And obviously Joe Biden also did walk through the cemetery where American soldiers are buried. And of course, that was the cemetery that Donald Trump refused to go to because it was raining.
Show the respect for those that fallen, and it just goes back to his conviction as a religious man, to show respect for everybody, just like he goes to the gravesite of his son and his daughter and his wife, who died in a car accident. But it also shows that President Biden's willing to basically hold up those burdens for the American people and go there and speak on our behalf. I think he had one of the best foreign trips that in his presidency.
So another kind of storyline that came out of this trip to Normandy for Joe Biden, he obviously gave a very powerful speech, but I saw that some of the right-wing talking heads kind of interpreted his speech as being a declaration against Donald Trump. When he was talking about dictatorship and authoritarian governments, they said, you know, he shouldn't be talking about Donald Trump on this 80th anniversary of D-Day, and he wasn't. It was kind of their projection, their paranoia, that he was talking about Donald Trump when he really wasn't.
No, he didn't even name drop Donald Trump. The speech was basically just about tyranny and itself and dictatorship in itself. And it was more, I think, just watching back the speech was aimed more at Vladimir Putin than uh, than anybody. But it just shows that they know what Donald Trump spews and what his message is, because otherwise they wouldn't take that as talking about Donald Trump unless they had the notion in their mind that Donald Trump does have uh, dictatorship views, the rhetoric that he's again and again stated that he would be dictator on day one, and it just shows that they know that they're not right, and they know what Donald Trump is about, and it's just crazy that we'd even take that stance when he did not uh, drop a name. And it also reminds me of, I believe Hillary Clinton was talking back in 2016 about basically uh, Russian puppets. Yeah, Tulsi Gabbard. God, I just totally. But Hillary did the same thing where she basically spoke about Russian puppets and Russian disinformation, and people took it out of context that it was attacked towards Tulsi Gabbard, but she never dropped a name then either. So it just kind of reminded me of the different times from 2016 to 2024.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I think there's some other things to take away from this trip to Normandy for Joe Biden. Obviously, we saw President Zelensky there as well, and Joe
Mm-hmm.
Biden and President Zelensky did have some conversations, but I thought President Zelensky looked very powerful there in Normandy. And a lot of the video showing him looking like a very confident leader and a very important leader in
Mm-hmm.
that region, countering obviously Vladimir Putin.
Also came across very humble um, for the type of allies that Ukraine has and the European Union and the United States. And I just like to point out one moment that really touched me. And honestly, I had some tears come down to my face. There was a older gentleman, D-Day veteran. I believe it was Prime Minister Justin Trudeau that came up and said, "Hey, this is the president of Ukraine." And an older gentleman reached up and basically tried to kiss President Zelensky's hand, and President Zelensky, of course, instantly got to one knee and said, "No, no, 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 no." And then the older gentleman said, "You are the savior of Europe." And Zelensky said, "No, you're my hero. You're the savior." And I think it was just a very humble, down to earth moment. Uh, Showing Zelensky's ability to sympathize with people, especially those that paid the ultimate sacrifice, and then those that are still with us today, to kind of honor uh, those that laid down the ultimate sacrifice.
You know, we have to think about the United States' place in the world and its support of Ukraine, but also of Israel and some trying times there as well. By the way, just on a personal note, amazing to see those four hostages rescued. I know there's
Mhm.
some questions about that operation, and you know I could go on forever about the way Hamas is keeping those hostages with families in Gaza as to make them targets, basically sacrificing families uh, in order to make a point. But the United States' place in the world and how it supports Ukraine, how it's supporting Israel, and in this war in the Middle East.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And to me, Brian, and this is probably going to be a harsher stance than you've heard me take. I do not personally care what measures need to be taken to free hostages. If they are hiding people within civilians, then the only people to blame is Hamas. And for one, the U.S. Only gave up, for what I've read on reports, is intelligence on it and where these people could possibly be. But we're starting to learn that when IDF approached, it was in basically citizens' homes where there's women and children and families, and tragically, numerous of them lost their lives. But ultimately, we wouldn't be in this predicament right now if just Hamas would lay down their arms and work towards a ceasefire.
Yeah, I think, listen, a couple things can be true. They're not mutually exclusive. That we can celebrate the return of those four hostages in relatively good shape, and the female not only got to see her dad on his birthday, but also got to visit her mom, who is dying of brain cancer. And her mom's last wish is basically to see her daughter before she passed away, very, very sick with terminal brain cancer. But two things don't have to be mutually exclusive. We can celebrate the return of hostages and also, not want to see civilians killed in Gaza. But again, as you said, it is Hamas that is putting these civilians in harm's way on purpose. This is what they've been doing the entire time of since October 7th. They knew, Hamas knew that by attacking Israel on October 7th, that Israel would come right back and attack Gaza. Civilians would pass away, and that would kind of raise the furor worldwide against Israel. That's all part of their plan. We've seen that go exactly according to their plan. They knew what they were doing, and again, we have more proof of it that these hostages are being hid in civilians' homes. And it's an unfortunate situation, but I do agree with you. Listen, I'm not a fan of Benjamin Netanyahu by any length at all. But Israel is going to do what it's going to do to get its people back, its citizens back. It's just one of the things that has to happen. I have a very good friend who is Israeli, served in IDF, and has a lot of good contacts over there. And I talked to this friend yesterday, and from their perspective, they don't want war, they don't want bloodshed, but they do want these hostages back. It is very important to the people of Israel to get these hostages back. And unfortunately, it's by any means necessary. And, it's kind of the fallout of war. War is not a good thing, but this is where we are. And it's just, listen, the United States has an important role to play in all of this. And Joe Biden right now is doing the best he can in order to balance all of these situations.
Yeah, and just to touch on a little bit of what you just basically said is that you can be anti Benjamin Netanyahu and be pro Israel. You can be pro Palestinian and be anti Hamas. So you don't have to necessarily pick a side, but what you have to do is you have to point out that Hamas is a terrorist organization, and that also the Israel government hasn't done everything possible, in my book, to take away the casualties of civilians. But that's where you go into criticizing the Israeli government and not necessarily the people of Israel or the Jewish community, because you can see up in Tel Aviv that hundreds of thousands of people are protesting the Israeli government as far as some of their responses to the attack on the Palestinian people. And that just shows that as far as Benjamin, and just like the news out today, that there are people starting to leave his government, that he's losing power. And the only way for him to continue power, in my belief, is to continue this war with Hamas. But the ultimate goal for anybody would be peace, and it would be a two-state solution to where the people of Israel and the people of Palestine can live peacefully after 70 years or whatever of death, violence, and bloodshed from people that don't deserve it. Because ultimately, the people of Israel, the citizens, don't deserve bombs to be dropped on their head. And the people of Palestine don't deserve bombs to be dropped on their head. And the goal must be and has to be to finally end the tragic lives that are continued to be lost, and both of them, and a two-state solution and peace is the only way that I see that this will ever end.
Extremely well said, Jonathan. Hey, everyone listening, do us a favor. Subscribe to the podcast wherever you're listening to this right now. Hit the subscribe button. That's really important. And our YouTube page is up and running, so go find that, the Ford News Podcast YouTube page. Go subscribe to that. You can see our beautiful mugs up there giving our hot takes. I believe we're getting TikTok up and running. Instagram will be up soon. We're going to get you from as many directions as possible so we can make sure that you get a hold of the facts and the truth. We're going to take a break here on Ford News. On the other side, I think I saw another video of Alex Jones crying. We talk about why that is and what's going on with him. On the other side, you're listening to Ford News. Welcome back to Ford News. He is Jonathan Ford. You need to follow him on X at Ford Jonathan 5. You cannot miss one of his posts. They're all facts. They're all truths. They all hit you right smack dab in the face. I am Brian London. Follow me at Miami Radio Beast. Jonathan, I was watching the news this week or online, and I saw more video of Alex Jones crying. What's his problem now? What's he got going on?
Families are going after Alex Jones to start liquidating some of his personal assets. So
Well, no, I was just gonna. We have to just when you say families of the kids, the little kids that were killed at Sandy Hook.
the families of the children that died at Sandy Hook's and the conspiracy surrounding Alex Jones, they basically asked the judge to start liquidating his personal assets of $1.5 billion. And it just kind of streams off of the previous week when Alex Jones was upset, is that he felt that the FBI was fixing to raid his studio and take his business when you fail to pay a family that you're found in court for basically defaming them, and just the horrific uh, vocabulary and attacks that Alex Jones put these families through. You think you would have a little bit more remorse for them, but that's where we are right now. Is that it looks like the judge may award this, and it also looks like Alex Jones, as well, is starting to voluntarily liquidate some of his personal assets.
Yeah, I think he said that basically InfoWars, which is his media company, will basically not be able to exist within a few months because of this.
Well, I don't know if it will necessarily not be able to exist, but it's going to change ownership hands, is what it's going to do. He's going to have to liquidate that off to somebody, and probably what they'll do is somebody will purchase it, keep Alex Jones on so he can continue to spread his lies and conspiracy theories. And let's not forget that right now, Alex Jones, through his own company, has a budget of 60 to $90,000 just to maintain his livelihood, when we have families that are victims of his hatred and lies towards the Sandy Hook families, when he's basically said repeatedly and throughout a long period of time, like, this isn't just one comment, this is him repeating the same conspiracies over, that some of these children never really died, that they're still alive, it never happened, it's a big hoax. I mean, to think about the family members that are going through this right now, that had gone through all this and still having to battle through our court systems to get a settlement that is rightfully theirs.
You think about these families having to relive this tragedy over and over again. And actually, I made it a point a few years ago. My family and I, we were up in Connecticut with my wife's family. We decided we were going to take a trip down to New York City. We purposely drove by the spot where Sandy Hook Elementary is, and I just had to memorialize those little kids. It was somewhat on the way. I just said we have to do this. We have to go by. We have to remember those little kids that passed away. And then obviously,
Mhm.
Parkland is right up the street from me, and I drive by that high school all the time. And again, I always like just stop, and if my radio's on, I turn it off, and I just think about the kids that lost those lives. And for someone like Alex Jones to say, "Oh, those kids aren't dead; they're still alive," or they were crisis actors, or it was all fake, like it's just ridiculous. Those families having to relive that over and over again. Hey, man, you're guilty. It's time to start paying up. I'm sorry, I don't feel very bad. And Jonathan, this is the thing that I see on social media a lot, from not only just randomly on X or anywhere else, but from people I know on Facebook that I know are part of the MAGA crowd, but still I keep a relationship with. I've seen a lot of this. Oh, well, Alex might have said that, that Sandy Hook thing wasn't real, but he's, whatever, that was bad, but he's really a good guy. He's got good information. And when I see that, my head, it wants to explode.
So it's not just what Alex Jones said, which is bad enough. It's the millions of people that believe the content that he is creating or the stories that he is publishing are the truth. I have countlessly came across people that I have had conversations with that actually believe that the Sandy Hook tragic event didn't happen and that it's all a conspiracy theory. And these people actually believe this. And Alex Jones was one of the leading voices, if not the leading voice, pushing this conspiracy theory. And let's also remember that Alex Jones, this isn't just the first thing that Alex Jones has been in the news as just not being a good person, his abuse with his ex-wife, his failure to pay child support. I mean, there's numerous things that this guy has done in conspiracy theories that could lead anybody to believe or should lead anybody to believe that he's just not a good person.
Yeah, it just tears my heart apart, really, when I think about what any family goes through, that has to deal with a kid that was murdered at the place where they're supposed to be safe, at school. And then here's this guy that's spouting off these falsehoods. And as you said, millions of people are believing it. And it's just utterly ridiculous. And he needs to start paying up. And these families need to get the justice that they deserve. Um, there's no doubt about it. It's just ugly. It's disgusting. You know what? Listen, I'm all about free speech, and
I'll tell you
there.
what's really ridiculous is that we have politicians that still refuse to do any type of gun reform or any type of legislation to protect kids that are in these schools. We have had countless slaughtering, and I hate to use that word, but slaughtering of children inside these schools, and parents having to identify their carcasses because we fail as a nation, and the politicians are failing us every single day to take action with legislation of the leading cause of deaths of children in the United States. And it's going to continue down this path until we start voting for representatives, senates that are going to start taking this issues serious and understand that life doesn't just stop at birth; it continues all the way through their adulthood, and they should be protected all the way up to the moment that they leave high school. And it's our obligation to budget that or to make sure that, listen, we got children now that are doing drills for in case of a mass shooting, and they are dropping underneath desks and boarding up doors as part of an everyday routine or a monthly routine. And if you can't just sit back as a person for a second and think about as a child or now your child being in there and having to have um, that fear every time you go into the school building. And some people are going to say, well, it's only happened such and such so many times. But the thing is that these problems are escalating and they're not getting any better, and we're doing absolutely nothing about it. And that's what angers me the most. It angers me that these children's lost their lives, but it angers me more that we refuse to do anything to stop bloodshed from happening going forward.
My wife is a middle school teacher here in South Florida, and every month they have to do active shooter drills where she has to gather her kids in the corner of her classroom. She has to go make sure the door is locked and the windows are done and this and that. And she's got a million things on a checklist that have to get done during these active shooter drills while she's trying to protect these middle school kids. And, one of the solutions that the genius politicians might have is, oh, well, if you give the teacher a gun, then everyone's going to be safe. And my wife well, first of all, my wife is, she's not a fan of guns and wouldn't feel comfortable. But let's say that was forced upon her. She would tell you, I've got 8 million things going on. I've got to make sure the kids are in the right spot. I've got to make sure they're behind a hardened place so they don't get shot. When would you like me to go grab a gun and defend the 30 kids that are in my classroom? How is that going to work? It's just the most ridiculous solution I could ever hear. We've got to do something about this. Our kids need to be safe in school. And the thing that does not make them safe in school is when someone comes in with an AR-15, and you know what? All of the good guys with the guns, it's not enough to stop the bad guy with the gun, as we saw in several different places like Parkland and Sandy Hook and Uvalde and everywhere else.
Well, we also have certain elements that are put into place that are supposed to protect these children, and that's the law enforcement, FBI, local representatives, and teachers are supposed to prepare students and children for the future and mold them in the type of person that they want to be or that they should be. And to tell a teacher, not only do you have to teach a criteria that's set up by the state, but here's a gun. And now you're also going to act as a police officer inside these classrooms. It's just absolutely mind boggling to me. Why don't we just have the teachers focus on what they love and what they're compassionate about, and that is watching children develop mentally and emotionally, and let's allow and pressure the representatives and hold them accountable to do what they're supposed to do, and that's protect those that are vulnerable.
Real quick, because I don't want to be accused of just being so far on the left and we don't talk about anything else. The Hunter Biden trial is ongoing. I'm sure we'll talk about it more in the future as the case gets going. I think, do we have a jury in the Hunter Biden
Yeah,
trial?
the 12 jurors have been selected. And also out of the 12 jurors, the one thing that did come to the already through witnesses, and we'll definitely talk about this more next week, is that uh, basically that the laptop does exist and that the FBI can now confirm that the laptop does exist and that it is Hunter Biden's. They have authenticated that. But also that same FBI special agent also stated that they can't necessarily authenticate everything in the laptop, that it could or could not have been basically altered. But yeah, next week we'll definitely go into it. And the one thing is President Biden already stated in an interview that no matter the outcome of this trial, he will not pardon his son. That Hunter must face the consequences of his actions, and we'll look into it. But the gun charges and stuff look pretty serious. But let's also remember that most of these cases are never even brought to trial. A couple other facts that I would like to point out is that the form was not filled out correctly. They forgot to put down the address while they're at the store purchasing the gun, and basically they said that the reason why they didn't put the address down is because it was Hunter Biden, and they later filled it in with the pin months later. So, but yeah, we'll touch more onto this next week. And if Hunter Biden is guilty and the verdict comes back unanimously that he's guilty, then he needs to suffer the consequences, regardless if he's the president's son or not.
1000%. All right, we're going to take another break. On the other side, it's our favorite segment of the week. We've got to do a Ford fact check. We will do that on the other side. You're listening and watching Ford News. Welcome back to Ford News. He is Jonathan Ford. Please follow him on X at FordJonathan5. I'm Brian London. Follow me at Miami Radio Beast. Follow the show at Ford News Podcast. Go subscribe to the YouTube channel. Go subscribe to the podcast. Just get us everywhere that you can get us. That's going to be TikTok soon and Instagram. We're going to be everywhere that you ever thought we could possibly be. I think I might be even working on a MySpace page. We'll see how that goes. But I do know it is time for our favorite segment of the week. It is time for the Ford News Fact Check. All right, Jonathan, what are we fact checking this week? What are we going to teach the people about?
I think what we're going to try to discuss a little bit here, Brian, and I think you've read more into this, is this Project 2025 that is key points to basically what the MAGA or Republican Party platform that they plan on installing if Donald Trump is elected in 2000, this upcoming election in 2024. So we can go over like a few of these, but I just really started digging into these, and it's kind of crucial that people, if you haven't ever heard of Project 2025, that you get in there, because basically what it's outlining is basically putting loyalists for Donald Trump in the Department of Justice to basically go after political opponents or anyone that they seek as an enemy. It actually lifts federal protection for the gay community. And it also lists Christian as being basically the official religion of the United States. But Brian, you've also done quite a bit of reading up on this as well, so you can kind of dig into this with me too if you want to.
Yeah, so Project 2025 is basically the GOP master plan. It's, close to 1,000 pages long, and it basically looks at taking our democracy, right, and making it into a white supremacist Christian theocracy. It's financed by the Heritage Foundation, and it's written by a bunch of extreme right wing organizations, and it's basically about the extreme right wing dismantling the federal government and giving all the power to basically a dictator. In this case, it would be Donald Trump. It's backed by billionaires, and you talked about some of the things that it has in it, but just to roll down a list of some of the bullet points, right? And they want to enact this on day one if Trump wins the presidency. So January 20th, 2025, you'll see there'll be to federally criminalize abortion, roll back all the gains in racial equality, eliminate climate change mitigation, strip LGBTQ plus people of their rights and criminalize trans people, create mass detention camps and deport hundreds of thousands of non-U.S. citizens, basically try to get rid of unions, and this is scary, use the military to repress protests, and all kind of assistance for the poor and working class Americans, and it goes on and on and on. But all of this stuff is, it's not just a rumor, it's not just hearsay. This thing exists. This document exists, and this is what they're going to do. And when we say democracy is on the line in this election, we're not joking. They're literally trying to basically reform what we think of as this constitutional republic, this democracy, into something entirely different.
Let's understand, some of this has already taken place. So like earlier this week, we had the Republican Party basically vote against women to have basically birth control. So it's already starting, and it started during even the Trump's administration when he walked across the White House lawn and basically to a church and ordered basically Capitol Police, military to pepper spray and rubber bullets to the crowd. And this is going to be at a much larger scale that the Heritage Foundation is basically funding for this right now. So if we think about like things like this can't happen, then you're definitely blinded right now. If you're not watching what's actually happening and what the Republican Party is basically telling us right now through their voting and through their language on uh, basically talk show hosts, just like Representative Donald's basically stating that the black people and black communities were better under Jim Crow. And if anybody doesn't know who Representative Brian Donalds is, he's actually married to a white woman, which during Jim Crow would be illegal.
Correct.
So he obviously he would not be better under Jim Crow law at all. And he started to backtrack this on TV a little bit. But he said what he said. And this is the things that you have to believe what their intentions are to actually push out Project 2025.
Yeah, we urge everybody out there that's either watching or listening, go Google, go do the research for yourself, go look up Project 2025. It is completely scary. Jonathan, one other thing I think we have to talk about before we get out of here this week is, President Biden did a great thing and he capped the cost of insulin. And here comes Donald Trump thundering in and saying, "No, I was the one that capped the cost of insulin." Is that true? Did Trump do that?
That is actually false for the most part.
Oh,
So basically, what Donald Trump did is he did have an executive order that would have um, basically reduced insulin prices to $35, but he left that up to the pharmaceutical companies to do that involuntarily or voluntarily, sorry, excuse me,
right.
voluntarily. And he also left it open for more negotiations to go forward to continue to lower prescription costs that basically never ever really transpired. And Donald Trump pretty much left it at that. But the good part is that now we have President Biden, which you laid out, did a great job with this by putting the capping of insulin for everybody, basically, in the Inflation Reduction Act.
Act. Yep.
And yeah, so it's there for everybody. But no, Donald Trump is not being even close to surprisingly accurate with this particular claim.
Go figure that he would tell another lie. Huh. How about that? Well, Jonathan, that'll do it for us this week. Always a lot going on. I know we will be recording next Sunday, which will be Father's Day. It will be a big day for both of us, but I'm sure we'll find time as we're being worshipped by our kids to get in a show for the audience. We will do that. But a lot of important stuff going on. We will be keeping our eye on this week. As always, if you want the news, if you want the facts, if you want the truth, you follow Jonathan at Ford Jonathan 5 24/7 365. He's there for you on X in order to get you all the stuff. What are you pointing at? What did I do?
I'm pointing at you, buddy, to make sure people know
Oh,
to follow you as well.
oh, okay. Yeah, if they like, they can. Oh, yeah, although you're going to get 50-50. You're going to get half is going to be politics and important stuff, and the other half is going to be me going crazy about a hockey game. So there you go. That's what you get when you follow me. I'm all over the place.
Yeah, I
Um,
always go there just to see on your page, and I look at some of them like, dear God, I don't even know what's going on here. But I do like every once in a while making comments on your post about hockey and ask you if this is golf or some other crazy sport, just because I don't follow sports as much as what, of course, you do. But yeah,
uh,
if you're on X and you follow me and you got this right here, I know you see Brian on my follow list that's on X. You need to make sure to hit the follow button to his account. And then also, I would just like to add that we did a calculations on the follow list, and I know there's going to be some people that are going to know what I'm talking about, some won't. Uh, but just on the follow list, we've accounts have added up to 75,000 followers just in the past couple months with just a simple me dropping it in threads. So congratulations
Amazing.
to those accounts. And just remember that my ultimate message is that no voice is too small and no voice is too large. We all have the same voice in this, and that's what my whole purpose of that follow list is. And the follow list actually stopped me from being able to do ad revenue and monetization on X. And it just, some things are more important than the ultimate dollar. And I'll continue to do that follow list so I can grow accounts from 2,000 to 10,000 or whatever it happens to be.
Yeah, no, it's an awesome thing that you're doing, Jonathan, and we really, all of us that are on that follow list, really appreciate you, and we thank the audience for following us, but also for listening
Absolutely.
and watching Ford News. Have a good one. We'll see you next time on Ford News.